Welcome to Treasure Island, the classic novel by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Chapter 14. Defending the Island. Ever since I had set foot on the island, many events had unfolded on the ship. What follows is the account given to me by Dr. Livesey. When Dr. Livesey and the others learned I had gone ashore, they grew anxious for my safety. Determined to assess the situation, the doctor took Hunter in a small boat and rowed toward the shore. On the beach, they spotted several boats moored, with 2 pirates standing guard. As they moved inland, they quickly discovered a fortified log house atop a hill. A clear spring flowed from the summit, and the blockhouse, made of solid timber, could hold up to 40 men. It had loopholes for musket fire, a cleared perimeter, and a surrounding fence nearly 6 feet high. "If we fortify this position," thought Dr. Livesey, "we can hold out against any attack." The spring was crucial. The ship's water supply was running low. With enough food and ammunition, they could defend the fort for a long time. The doctor hurried back to the ship, where he found Squire Trelawney brooding over his own mistakes, blaming himself for their dire situation. But as soon as he heard the doctor's plan, his spirits lifted. "We must retreat to the blockhouse," Livesey insisted. "Staying on the ship is too dangerous. If the pirates take the Hispaniola, another ship was scheduled to arrive eventually to rescue them." Before leaving, Livesey put old Redruth in the gallery between the cabin and the forecastle, with 3 or 4 loaded muskets and a mattress for protection. Hunter brought the boat round under the stern port, and Joyce and the doctor set to work loading her with powder tins, muskets, bags of biscuits, kegs of pork, a cask of cognac, and my invaluable medicine chest. In the meantime, the squire and the captain stayed on deck, and the latter hailed the coxswain, who was the principal man aboard. Up on the deck, Captain Smollett faced Israel Hands, the leader of the 6 remaining pirates. He issued a stern warning. "Mr. Hands, here are 2 of us with a brace of pistols each. If any one of you 6 make a signal of any description, that man's dead." The pirates hesitated, then whispered among themselves. One of them seemed reluctant. Finally, they attempted to circle around and ambush from behind, but they quickly retreated when they saw Redruth guarding the passageway. Dr. Livesey and his men worked tirelessly ferrying supplies to the blockhouse. The 2 sentries on the beach stirred. One leapt to his feet and vanished into the undergrowth, no doubt to raise the alarm. Dorset was left behind to stand guard, and before setting off for a final trip, Hunter was also stationed inside to reinforce the stronghold. The doctor, ever the pragmatist, pressed on without hesitation. "They may outnumber us, but they have no muskets aboard. By the time they close in for pistol range, we'll have dropped a dozen of them." With this in mind, before embarking on the final trip, each man kept only a musket and a cutlass, while the remaining weapons and powder were cast overboard into the sea. Meanwhile, aboard the Hispaniola, Captain Smollett had watched closely. Among the pirates, one man stood apart, looking uncertain, hesitant, a man at war with himself. The captain saw his chance. "Gray, I am leaving this ship. I order you to follow your captain. I know you are a good man at bottom. I give you 30 seconds to join me in—"
There was a terrible pause. For a moment, all remained still. Then, a scuffle, a shout, the sound of blows, and suddenly Gray burst forth, blood trickling from a fresh cut on his cheek, but running towards the captain like a dog to his master's call. "I'm with you, sir!" In that instant, another honest hand was gained for the fight. But the last trip to shore was a trial of its own. The boat was overloaded, too many men, too many supplies, and the gunwales kissed the water's edge. To make matters worse, the tide was rising, and a strong current seized them, dragging the small craft off course, pulling it toward the pirates' boats moored along the beach. As they struggled against the current, the captain suddenly remembered something. "The gun," said he. They had entirely forgotten the long 9, and there, to our horror, were the 5 rogues busy about her. getting off her jacket, as they called it, the stout tarpaulin cover under which she sailed. "Hans used to be Flint's gunner," Gray muttered grimly. At any risk, they put the boat's head direct for the landing place. The brandy-faced rascal Israel Hands plumped down a round shot on the deck. "Who's the best shot?" asked the captain. "Mr. Trelawney, out and away," said the doctor. "Mr. Trelawney, will you please pick me off one of these men, sir? Hands, if possible," said the captain. "Easy with that gun, sir, or you'll swamp the boat. All hands stand by to trim her when he aims." The squire took careful aim, but just as he fired, Hands ducked, and the bullet struck another pirate instead. The cry he gave was echoed not only by his companions on board, but by a great number of voices from the shore. But before they could reload, the cannon thundered. A massive round shot whistled through the air. "Hold!" cried the captain, quick as an echo. This was the first that I heard, the sound of the squire's shot not having reached me. By sheer luck, it missed, but the shock wave capsized the boat. At any rate, the boat sank by the stern, quite gently, in 3 feet of water. So far, there was no harm. But there were all our stores at the bottom, and only 2 guns out of 5 remained in a state for service. The other 3 had gone down with the boat. The crew scrambled ashore, leaving behind half their supplies and gunpowder. To add to their concern, they heard voices already drawing near them in the woods along shore, and they had not only the danger of being cut off from the stockade in their half-crippled state, but the risk of them being attacked. "Captain," said the doctor, "Trelawney is the dead shot. Give him your gun. His own is useless." They exchanged guns, and Trelawney, silent and cool as he had been since the beginning of the bustle, Dr. Livesey handed Gray his cutlass. It did all their hearts good to see him spit in his hand, knit his brows, and make the blade sing through the air.
40 paces farther, we came to the edge of the wood and saw the stockade in front of us. They reached the south side as 7 mutineers, led by boatswain Job Anderson, appeared at the southwestern corner, shouting. The squire, the doctor, Hunter, and Joyce fired. The 4 shots came in rather a scattering volley. One fell, and the rest fled into the trees without hesitation. They walked down the outside of the palisade to see to the fallen enemy. He was stone dead, shot through the heart. As they rejoiced, a pistol cracked from the bush. A ball whistled past the doctor's ear, and Tom Redruth fell. Both the squire and the doctor returned the shot, but as they had nothing to aim at, it is probable they only wasted powder. Then they reloaded and turned our attention to poor Tom. They took him into the log house, and the doctor saw with half an eye that all was over. Poor old Tom had not uttered a word of surprise, complaint, or fear from the beginning of our troubles. The oldest among us by 20 years, he had served with unwavering loyalty, and now it was he who was to fall first. The squire dropped down and kissed his hand, crying like a child. Meanwhile, the captain, his chest and pockets swollen with supplies, had unpacked various stores, the British colors, a Bible, rope, pen, ink, the logbook, and pounds of tobacco. He found a felled fir tree in the enclosure, and with Hunter's help, set it up at the log house corner. Then, climbing on the roof, he had with his own hand bent and run up the colors. This seemed mightily to relieve him. He re-entered the log house and set about counting up the stores as if nothing else existed. He said, "This is our greatest concern. Losing everything on that last trip was truly unfortunate. We have weapons and supplies, but our provisions are dangerously low." Just then, a cannonball whistled over the stockade roof and exploded in the forest. The next shot was more accurate, striking near the stockade and sending up a cloud of sand, though causing no real damage. "Captain," said the squire, "the house is quite invisible from the ship. It must be the flag they are aiming at. Would it not be wiser to take it in?" "Strike my colors!" cried the captain. "No, sir, not I." As soon as he had said the words, the crew all agreed with him. The flag was more than a mere banner. It was a symbol of their defiance, a declaration to the pirates that those within the stockade would not be cowed by cannon fire. All afternoon, the enemy continued their bombardment, but their shots fell wide. The captain sent Gray and Hunter to retrieve supplies from the sunken boat as the tide had receded, but it was too late. The pirates had beaten them to it. Silver stood overseeing them, each armed with a musket, likely hidden away in advance. Meanwhile, the captain sat at the table, writing in his log. Dr. Livesey glanced over and read the first few lines. Alexander Smollett, master. Livesey, ship's doctor. Gray, ship's carpenter. Trelawney, ship's owner. Hunter and Joyce, his loyal men. These have remained faithful in defense of the ship. Provisions are scarce, with only 10 days' rations remaining. The British colors flew atop the stockade. Redruth, the owner's servant, not a sailor, has been slain by the mutineers. Jim Hawkins, cabin boy. At that last name, the doctor froze, his anxiety rushing back. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the forest. "Somebody hailing us," said Hunter. They all turned toward the sound, and as they did, they saw me, climbing over the stockade fence. For a moment, no one spoke. They stood motionless, overwhelmed with emotion.